Are you ready to hustle?
I need to hustle.
Welcome to The Hustle with Justin Harrison, the ultimate podcast for money motivation and inspiration.
So here on The Hustle this season, we are focusing in on people's personal finance questions. And today we've got Tylen from Cape Town with us, and he's got a couple of very important personal finance questions. So Tylen, let's take it away. What is your first question?
My first question is in terms of your finances or your earnings that you get working, and earning a salary. What is the best way on managing that finance in terms of spending? Say, for instance, if you earn a certain amount, right, capped amount of your salary that has to go into, say, for instance, if you have your payments according to your accounts that you have to give, is there a possibility or a way that I can basically manage that in terms of making sure that I save up on those? So if I earn, maybe say I earn 20K a month, and my expenditure is over and above that, is there a way that I can maybe like reduce that in terms of saving it, and so I can also save that so I can keep that for future investments, like to manage that. Yeah.
So it's a great question, and a lot of people are in the same boat, right? So the first thing you need to know, and I've probably said this a few times on The Hustle now in this season alone, but people need to understand that there really are only two ways to basically make sure that you've got extra cash. One is you have to either earn more money, or you have to figure out how to save more money on the money that you're currently earning. And so most people focus on the trying to earn more part, and in the meantime, they get themselves in a lot of debt in the process. So here's the thing. You should never spend money that you don't have. That's the first rule. And so how do you spend less than what you earn? How do you hold yourself accountable? The best way to do this is to have a budget. And I have a personal budgeting template that I advise everybody use. If you go to budget21.co.za, download the template. What it does is it helps you categorize your expenses. And as you spend in those categories, it tells you how much money you've got left in each category to spend. And the bottom line is this: if you don't have the money, don't spend it. So let's say, for example, groceries, you're budgeting 3,000 Rand a month. You get to the last week and you've already spent 2,900. Well, guess what? You're going to have to figure out how to make that 100 Rand work for the week. The only thing that is going to get you close to your goals is, first of all, tracking it. And secondly, having the discipline never to go over the amounts that you budgeted for, because most people treat their money like a number in the bank account. And that's the biggest mistake. You need to break your money down and know what you're budgeting for every single expense that you've got. And when you break that down, you can then decide where you're spending your money, where you're not spending your money, where you need to pull back, where you've got extra money. And so if you haven't already started using my budget template, I'm telling you, this is the most life-changing thing you're ever going to do, because it's a different approach to budgeting. What we're teaching people is to understand that money is a resource just like water out of the tap. If you leave that tap open, it's going to run dry. And the same thing happens with your money. And so you've got to know when to close the tap. And the only time you know when to close the tap is when you're tracking that individual expenditure. So you've got a set amount for petrol, you've got a set amount for groceries, you've got a set amount for lights and water and eating out and whatever it is, travel. The moment you haven't got enough money, well, treat it like you don't have the money. You've got to figure out, you've got to hustle, you've got to make a plan.
Yes. Perfect. That's very good.
Okay, so now let's hear your second question.
My second question is in terms of investment, I wanted to find out if there is a possibility, if I have a capped amount of, say for instance, I make an example, I have an amount of 50,000 or say 100,000, and I actually want to find the best way to invest that capital into a certain investment platform. What platform will basically make me go that I can basically earn and earn on top of that capital and be actually a best investment for me in the long run. So if I have that amount of capital, I can basically invest it into a certain platform that will basically make it earn more in the long run.
Okay, so there's a couple of problems with your thinking, right? So the first thing you need to change your thinking on is not where to invest your money, but rather what to invest your money into. right? Because here's the thing. The only thing anybody in this world is going to help you do when it comes to your money is take money from you. And this is a big problem falling on a lot of investors. They look at these so-called platforms. That's a mistake. You need to understand what it is you're investing into the first place. Is it a physical commodity? Is it a hard asset? Is it real estate? You need to actually understand the investment vehicle.
Yes.
And the reason why most people don't succeed at investing is because they don't understand what they're investing into in the first place. They go through a broker, they rely on the broker, they buy a unit trust, but they don't know what the unit trust is invested in. They buy a share of a company, but they don't actually know what the company does. So here's the biggest piece of advice I'm going to give you. Before you lay out a single cent in investment, you need to invest into your own knowledge. And it may seem counterintuitive, but rather take a couple of months worth of savings that you intended to put into investing and educate yourself on the investment vehicles that are out there. Understand what stocks are. Understand how to buy stocks, how to sell stocks, understand how to pick a good stock. If you look at doing real estate, understand the real estate market. If you want to understand investing in unit trust, educate yourself. Go do some courses on unit trust. The money you spend up front in the first year or two educating yourself about investments is going to return many more multiples for you, even though you're going to feel like I put money into something to learn something. I didn't get anything out in terms of physical monetary return. Over the term of your life, that knowledge is going to allow you to make great investments. So the first thing you need to invest into is knowledge. The second thing is only invest into something you truly know and understand. If you don't understand how to value a company, don't ever buy a stock. If you don't understand how to manage real estate, never buy a property. So what I'm saying to you is make sure you understand what it is you're investing into first. And then coming back to the first question that you had, which is what I always tell people, to become investable, you need to have consistently set aside some of your earned income. And if you're not doing that consistently, you're not ready to invest. There's no point in you invest once off and you're not continuing to invest all the time. And so my advice to you is get a handle on your budget first, get a handle on your expenditure, make sure that you're not overspending. And then obviously with any disposable income that you have, start doing courses, start educating yourself on the financial system, and only then start investing. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, perfect sense.
Okay, so let us know, what is your third question?
In terms of like we do have property, right? We have property at home, so most of the time the property that we're renting out is basically getting us finance in on a month-to-month basis, right? But now, in terms of, say for instance, if we the moment when we have that funds in the bank, right? They basically charge us interest on that. It's like we're depositing into the banks. So is the best way to rather alleviate from that, or is there a way that we can basically find a different way so that we're not getting taxed on that capital that's coming on every month? You know, is there basically a way that we can stop that in terms of on how they basically tax us on a monthly basis with the money that we put in the account, or is there a way that we can get past that?
So look, the one thing you need to understand about interest and compound interest, and this was a famous saying by Albert Einstein. He said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Those who truly understand it will earn it. Those who don't will pay it. And so you're sitting in a situation where you're paying it, right? Because you haven't understood how to use money and earn income to generate interest as opposed to paying it.
Yes.
The only answer to this is you have to pay off your loans, home loans, equity in your bonds as quickly as possible, right? And so any amount of money that you put extra in is going to reduce the amount of interest that you pay. There are, however, a couple of tricks that you need to know. You want to put that money in as early in the month as possible, because you must remember that your interest is calculated monthly on these sort of home loans and these sort of finance agreements. So the sooner you do that in the month, the less interest you're going to pay. At the end of the day, though, the only way to actually avoid it completely is to get it paid for. And so that should be your sole motivation.
Perfect. I absolutely agree with it.
Well, listen, Tylen, I know that you've got to run. I hope that you found value in these answers. And yeah, it's
Thanks. I
it's
appreciate
obviously
it.
a
Yeah,
journey that everybody has to undergo.
absolutely. I acknowledge it. Thank you very much for that, Justin.
It's my absolute pleasure. If you found value from this episode of the Hustle Podcast, please be sure to leave us a rating on your favorite podcasting app, and make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button depending on the platform that you're using to make sure you never miss an episode of the Hustle Podcast.
Stay motivated by The Hustle. Talkers talk, but hustlers hustle. Find more episodes at ecr.co.za or your favorite podcast app.